Joining me now, legal analyst and trial attorney Misty Marris. Misty, great to see you again. There are so many elements to this. So I want to start with prosecutors wanting Grossman's access to phones taken away. Explain why it's not okay for her to be on the phone trying to get her family, trying to get her lawyers to help her get a new trial.
Yeah, Nicole. So she's broken the cardinal rule of somebody who's incarcerated. And usually the lawyers really hammer this home. Do not talk about your case on the phone in jail to anybody but your attorneys, which is protected by attorney-client privilege. So there's several issues here. In these conversations that she's having behind bars with her family, she's talking about putting out evidence that was actually sealed in the trial, putting that out in the public sphere. That's going to be a violation of court order and perhaps tampering. She's also talking about communicating with jurors and getting them to say that there was some sort of misconduct. She's further saying that she wants to find a witness who did not testify at trial and get them to say that they were somehow coached or directed not to testify. So all of this could be considered witness tampering, jury tampering, and also could generally lead her to that place of where she loses those phone privileges with everybody except her lawyer. And that's to put a pin in this, because remember, jurors in California, their identity remains anonymous, and they're not supposed to have their contact information shared with the parties. So the fact that there's outreach to these jurors, that's potentially very problematic. Jurors could be dangerous, and it's something that needs to be nipped in the bud. And that's why you see prosecutors asking for this relief.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that a little bit more, Misty, because, Misty, there were reports her private investigator contacted the jurors. What are the potential ramifications of somebody doing that?
So what I'm thinking is she's obviously teeing this up for an appeal, and that's legal. So it's legal for her lawyers to analyze any of the issues in the trial, any appellate issues, and getting them before an appellate court. I'm thinking that maybe one of the arguments is going to be that there was juror misconduct or something to that end, because they are sending private investigators to go speak to these jurors, and that's without the court's approval, and that's when these jurors are not supposed to be contacted by the other side. So that could be a potential issue. Now, what could it lead to? Loss of these phone privileges, that's number one. Some sort of admonishment from the judge which says to stop this conduct. That would be a little less severe, but at its worst, it could lead to additional charges. And Nicole, keep in mind, she's sentenced to 30 years as a minimum. It could go beyond that. All of this could be relevant to a potential ability to get parole during that time, considering that she might be breaking laws behind bars. So there's very, very serious ramifications to what's happening right now.
All right, and let's add to this, Misty, because it does not end there. She apparently sent a letter to the parents of the young boys she is convicted of killing. Explain why that is also not okay in the eyes of the law.
So there had been an order of no contact by her to the parents of these young boys. So therefore, in addition to that, she's violating a court order not to contact the family. So all of this relates back to exactly what we're speaking about. It could result in her mail, her not being able to send mail out without it being reviewed, and potentially only communications with her lawyers being everything that she can do, being moved to a part of the jail where she loses significant privileges. All of that is to try and keep her in line before the more extreme step of perhaps adding additional charges.
Yeah, and as we see that picture there, I mean, these were not, little boys from separate families. These are parents who lost two of their sons there. Misty, you mentioned what she could be facing when it comes to sentencing. That is scheduled for early next month. Could all of this impact her sentencing in any way?
Yes, absolutely. And that's probably the most immediate consequence of this. We spoke about what could possibly happen, but the immediate consequence is that prosecutors are going to be setting forth what are called aggravating factors. And the fact that she is continuing, she's reaching out to the family, she's trying to influence witnesses, she's breaking all of these court orders behind bars. She's trying to put evidence out there that has been sealed by the court. That's all going to show that she's not necessarily taking accountability, taking this seriously, and could, in fact, impact her sentencing. Now, the defense, they're going to present what's called mitigating factors. And, of course, I'm sure sure they'll argue that this is all in furtherance of her efforts of a legal appeal. So that could all come out. We could hear more, actually, at the sentencing hearing regarding these antics behind bars. But if I have a prediction, I think the judge is going to limit her contact, because really what we're looking for is the victims, the parents of these two young children. This is a horrible case, to find some peace and to protect the identity of the jurors, which is central to the criminal justice system.
It certainly is. All right, Misty Marris, thank you so much.
Thank you.